Welcome everyone to this panel. We will be talking about industrial decarbonization now. And to do that, we have a panel of really excellent speakers gathered here. We have Mr. Nicholas Bitsios, who is the head of the Brussels office of Metlen Energy and Metals, right next to me. We also have Mr. Caio Melo, who is the Scope 3 decarbonization expert at ACT. We are also joined here today by Mr. Ivan Dobrev, who is Chief Executive at KCM, and last but not least, Mr. Martin Katinov, who is Manager for Energy Projects at Aurubis. And the topic of industrial decarbonization, let me just say a few words for context before we dive deep into the discussion. Now, when we say industrial decarbonization, this is not a very new conversation. It seems like it's already several years that we have been talking about this topic, and it also comes to mind as a relatively complex and rather slow-moving process because it involves very oftentimes retrofitting or replacing very long-lived, capital-intensive assets. And while this is the case, we are also living in a world that is changing quite rapidly. And just to give you a taste about the context in which this is happening. So at EMBER, we do track the progress globally of the energy transition, and just some of the most recent numbers we have in terms of data show us that this April 2025, for the first time, the world produced more electricity from solar than from nuclear. It represented 10% of global electricity in that month. And just to give you a taste about how we got there, basically solar generation tripled in the last 3 years alone, from around 80 terawatt hours in April 2020 to more than 200 terawatt hours in April of this year. And this is not the only technology that is really rapidly changing the world. We also have batteries that are becoming cheaper every year. Just as of 2024, batteries were at $115 per kilowatt hour for the pack as a global average. And this was a 20% decline from the previous year and an 84% decline over the last 10 years. And batteries are increasingly changing the game for solar because we also have lots and lots of solar battery projects emerging and actually dominating grid queues. So only in the US, if you look at 2023, of all the projects waiting to be connected to the grid, 75% were solar and battery of all the solar projects. And this was 44% just the year before in 2022. So this is a rapid change. And this is not something that is limited to places like the US. We do have Central and Eastern Europe, which has seen really rapid development, especially for solar. And if we look at Hungary and Bulgaria, just over the last 5 years, solar generation has quadrupled. If you look at January to April 2025, Bulgaria generated 1.6 terawatt hours of solar, which was 4 times more than January to April 2022, and it was 12% of the generation over those months. And in Hungary, solar was 22% over January-April this year, and also quadrupled from January to April 2020. So, in essence, overall, we're living in a very fast-changing world, driven by new technologies that are deployed very fast and no longer due to subsidies, but just because these are projects that can be built very fast and have become very cheap. So basically, in this context of very rapid change over the last few years that is probably going to accelerate even further in the next 5 to 10 years, I would like to open the discussion to our excellent panelists here and ask them about how they are navigating this new reality, how their company is addressing decarbonization as a challenge, but also potentially an opportunity. Maybe provide us with some case studies from your real experience, talk about your goals and your challenges in achieving this. And first, I would like to give the word to Mr. Dobrev here to share his perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to thank you to the organizers that invited KCM to be part of that very interesting event. I'm from KCM. KCM is a metallurgical company and we produce metals. Um, Also, as a metallurgical company, we are electro-intensive company, and our annual consumption, just to have an image of what kind of company we are, our annual consumption of electricity is 400,000 megawatt hours per year. That means we consume every hour, continuously, whole day, about 45 megawatt hours. So, in this perspective, decarbonization of the electro-intensive industry is a very complex task, and depending on industry, it varies at its intensity. For example, metallurgy like ours, we are not able to decarbonize all the processes. Until now, we proudly can say that about 60% of our processes are powered by electricity, but the rest, they are still carbonized. So, in particular case, we made a lot of change in 2015, 4 years before the Green Deal, but there we, as Kostantsa said, we are capital-intensive industry. We invest a lot of capitals to change our technology, and in 2015 we reduced our carbon footprint with 60% in absolute value. That means that we reduce 75,000 tons of CO2 emissions annually. So it's a big change, but it is capital intensive, and in industry like metallurgy, these investments are happening not so often. And this is the big challenge. But for sure, we are working on that to reduce more our carbon footprint and to be more decarbonized industry. From the electricity point of view, yes, a lot of talks were made here, but unfortunately, when we're talking about electro-intensive industry, we are talking about our scope 2 emissions. So there is no direct effect on our business to reduce the amount of or to increase the amount of green energy for our industry. Nevertheless, we already have power purchase agreement with one Bulgarian company for about 10% of our annual electricity consumption, and this is a good experience that we are sharing, and we also would like to continue with that. But the challenge here is that the sun is shining only during the day, and we need energy during the whole 24 hours of the day. So that's why things that were discussed here, they are very positive, that there are already proposals for combined PPAs, solar with wind, solar with battery. We really receive already some proposals, so that is good, and that is maybe the near-term future for us, respecting the decarbonization. Thank you.
Thank you. And since you mentioned Scope 2 emissions, let's talk a little bit about Scope 3 as well. So this is a question to Caio here about Scope 3 emissions. Basically, with your company, you deal a lot with companies that want to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. So you deal a lot with energy-intensive industry as suppliers for these companies. So how do you address this challenge? Can you talk a little bit about the downstream pressure and how this is lived by these suppliers, how you address that? Maybe share a case study if you have one.
Sure, happy to do so. First, also, I want to take some time to thank the organizers for having us here today. As ACT, we've been sponsoring the event for 4 years now. It's exciting to be able to support this kind of conversation and to actually foster action in the region. But going back to the question, Kostantsa, Yeah, as Daniel mentioned before as well, ACT has been helping companies for 15 years now reduce their emissions. But what we see over the past 5 to 6 years is a significant increase on scope 3 decarbonization. A lot of this is driven by the SBTi commitments that many of our clients have taken years ago. And as also we heard from Daniel, we have this big milestone in 2030 when these companies will have to actually deliver on the commitments that they've done over the last years. So when you think about supply chains, the important thing to understand is that there's typically, especially if you look at large supply chains globally, a lot of difference between the maturity of suppliers, right? So we need to be able to really meet suppliers where they are in their own decarbonization journey. And as ACT, we do it in a couple of different ways. First of all, if you're thinking about helping suppliers understand their emissions, we do a lot of work actually with Microsoft on this. So we've engaged around 5,000 of Microsoft suppliers over this year. And the idea there is, and the approach we take to this is providing the suppliers both with sustainability expertise. So from our side, we help them understand what is the GHG protocol and how do you account for emissions. But summing with the expertise also the technological infrastructure that is needed to make this process scalable. So the process of understanding emissions is scalable. Internally, we call this a throw your kitchen sink at me approach to carbon accounting, because the idea is really to meet suppliers where they are and to take away this feeling of not being ready to first account for emissions. And the second side is actually helping them decarbonize, right? So, I mean, obviously here, we're talking about many different ways to procure renewable electricity. What we need to do is first explain to suppliers what this journey might look like. And then again, also for the procurement of renewable electricity, meet them where they are. So there, for example, we work together with ZF, the German supplier of automotive parts. ZF is now engaging 16,000 of their suppliers, and they want all of them to buy renewable electricity already in 2025. As you can imagine there, we're dealing with suppliers that are buying 300 megawatt hour of renewable electricity, and they're also dealing with suppliers that are buying 300 gigs, right? And in all different parts of the world. So our job there is to, again, really enable them to understand what are the different procurement options. So we talked a lot about PPAs today, and that's obviously one of the options that are on the table. But then again, if we want to meet suppliers where they are, we need to give them flexibility of maybe combining PPA with long-term offtake agreements or even smaller spot transactions. So to summarize, for us, it's really about helping these corporates support their suppliers on their decarbonization journey with whatever it might be, the best option for them at the time.
Do you find any benefits that these suppliers gain from engaging in this process and being constructive?
Yeah, I think one big thing for us is if you think about sustainability and decarbonization process, it's kind of an iterative process, right? I mean, for every company, also here in the room today, you probably started years ago with a more basic understanding of decarbonization and the tools available to you, and you tend to improve this through time. What we want to do really with this type of supplier engagement programs is just make sure that suppliers go through this learning curve a lot faster than everyone else before did it. So that's a combination really of, again, the bringing ACT's expertise around the globe. And when you think about supply chains, right, we're talking a lot about Southeast Asia or Latin America or also here in Southeastern Europe. So what we need to do there is, meet them where they are and be able to talk about the specific challenge on their region, right? So really make something tailored to their approach. And then the big benefit for suppliers is just, fast tracking through their own decarbonization process, really.
Thank you. And now let's switch back to the perspective of the industrial consumers, large consumers of electricity. And maybe you, Mr. Katinov, could share a little bit more about, as Caio said, where you are in terms of your progress towards decarbonization, some of your recent projects, but also maybe share some of the challenges you had on the way.
Thank you very much for the question and also for the possibility to be part of this forum. So, as also Mr. Dobrev said, we as metallurgy companies are very, very energy intensive, and the challenges for decarbonizations are many, but also, as you say, we look at them as an opportunities. We can talk about maybe firstly on the bigger part from our point of view, the scope 2 emissions, because in our case, scope 2 emissions are 75%. In our decarbonization roadmap, the first part is how to make the best mix from internal production of electricity. For now, we built our own PV plants, which are on our own land, old remediated depots. And also, we are working on this to recover our waste heat from the production, also to generate electricity and to save energy. From other point of view, we are also investing in energy efficiency to reduce our consumption, and also to for the digitalization and to optimization of our processes. Not at the end, but we also will need GOs and PPAs to cover our rest consumption, because for sure with internal production at this moment and also with energy efficiency, we could not reach our targets for net zero till 2050. But this process now, in our case, is in discussion. From other point of view is the scope 1 emissions, which are 25% of our emissions, and here the challenges are, how to say, more, because there are not so many technologies that could give us opportunity for decarbonization. For now, we are investing in changing of high emitting fuels with lower, like the natural gas. But here is still big opportunity for the developers of technologies to give us more solutions in this field. So mainly these are our main challenges and how we are planning to handle with them.
Thank you. I would like to also ask Mr. Bitsios to share some of his perspectives. Like, do you see similar challenges also within Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions? What is your perspective? And maybe share what your company is doing in that, in that journey towards decarbonization.
Sure thing. So good afternoon, everyone. And we are cheating a little bit because, as the name implies, we're both an energy and a metals company. So on the energy side of things, we're an electricity utility. We're based in Greece. We also do project development. So that's renewable and storage projects all across the world, including in Bulgaria. If anyone would like to meet our project team, I'd be very happy to bring you in touch with them after this panel is done. But yeah, as the name of the panel implies, I'll be focusing a lot more on the metals part of our name. And here I think what we're doing is quite a useful example to show the different decarbonization challenges that different industrial sectors have, and also to answer your question about Scope 1 and Scope 2, because on the one hand, we're producing primary aluminium. So that's a process that is already electrified. It consumes massive volumes of electricity. So it's about 3 terawatt hours per year, which equates to about 6% of the consumption in the entire country of Greece at just one consumption point. So here the challenge from a decarbonization perspective is primarily making sure that this electricity supply is increasingly covered by renewables. There's some good progress being made there, but we think that a lot more can be done also from a policy perspective to really help get that step change of heavy industrials signing a lot more PPAs than they are today. But then on the other side of the equation, we are also doing the previous stage of production. So that's before primary aluminium, we're producing alumina. And that is a process of refining that runs on steam. And it currently runs on natural gas. You have supplies at different pressure. And for the ones at lower temperatures, we are actively working already on electrifying that using existing technologies that are mature and that are available. The higher temperatures of heat, that's where the big challenge is. We don't really have the required technologies there today. So you need a lot more innovation there. And from my perspective, what we should be doing is really focusing on the low-hanging fruit, what we know can be done, electrifying the lower temperature heat, and then making sure we're covering them with renewables as well.
Thank you so much, and thank you for mentioning low-hanging fruits. And I want to bounce that back to Mr. Dobrev here about low-hanging fruits, and to hear your perspective about what are the low-hanging fruits from your industry's perspective, from your company's perspective. Are there any processes that can easily be electrified? You already mentioned you have done quite a lot of projects previously on that. And then on sourcing clean electricity, how much of a low-hanging fruit is that from your view?
Yeah. Yes, I said that metallurgy is capital intensive production, and you heard the same words from other metallurgists here. Yes, it is a big opportunity for innovations, the metallurgy processes, and it is not easy to electrify everything because metallurgy means energy, and we turn rocks into metals, and for that purpose we need a lot of energy. Also we need carbon for chemical reactions, which cannot be substituted now. So there are some science behind this decarbonization of the processes, and as I said, we need time. The whole industry, the whole society need time to go to that breakthrough for decarbonization of metallurgy. One important thing to say to all of you, we all, the whole world, need metallurgy, because I hope that after 5 years we are not going to speak how to recycle spent photovoltaic panels or spent batteries with low carbonized metallurgy. Just an emotional remark. Yes, more easily for us, from today's perspective, is to use green energy from renewable sources, and this is the most successful way to decarbonize the energy production. As Mr. Katinov said, yes, there are some possibilities for industries like ours to build our own photovoltaic power systems on our own land, to install batteries on our own facility, to buy to acquire power purchase agreements for combined energy. It will be good because again we need a base profile energy for our industry. So that is the perspective.
Thank you. Now, I guess we have established that sourcing clean electricity is rather the low-hanging fruit. Would the other panelists agree? For example, Caio, would you agree that this is one of the low-hanging fruits that is most easily addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we also look into a lot, right, just switching to renewable electricity for suppliers means no change to their process, right? I mean, Mr. Dobrev here talked about a lot of the challenges on things that you can't change, right? I mean, you need carbon for some stuff, and there are also, as Martin mentioned, lots of opportunities for technological changes that we will need to get to the the net zero by 2050 idea. But renewable electricity is one of these things that you don't need to change any of the processes, right? Thanks to the geo system or IREX or whatever you want to think about. It's just incredibly easy to do the switch. But what's also important, especially on this economic climate, is how incredibly affordable it is, right? Especially at the price point that we are at today. So very often when we talk to clients that are interested on starting a supply engagement program, a big number that they're interested into is what's the cost per ton of carbon that I'm going to save. And if you look at many other different things you can do to reduce emissions, this number can be significant, right? I think especially when you're looking at alternatives in the metal sector, we're very often talking about more than $30 to $50 per ton of carbon, per ton of carbon that you save. When you look at renewable electricity, most places around the world, with few exceptions, we're talking about between $1 and $9 per ton. So it's a type of number that I think most sustainability teams will go full on for this option, right? And decarbonize as much as they can at this price point.
Excellent. And Mr. Bitsios, would you agree with that point? Do you see more? Would you agree with that?
I think there's a lot more that can be done in order to unlock renewable electricity sourcing for industries as well. Because if you look at the statistics of who's signing PPAs and how many they're signing, we had a wonderful presentation from Annie earlier today. You have a lot of tech sector, you have certain manufacturing sectors, but the really heavy electro-intensive industries who are consuming massive volumes of electricity. I mentioned 6% of the entire country. They're not yet signing the level of PPAs that we would like to see, and I guess many of the sellers in the room would agree with that today. What we're seeing instead is, over the past few years, because we've gone through this massive energy crisis in Europe, actually a lot of the consumers have been forced to shut down their production because the energy prices were excessive, and that is causing really big problems in the market. Because on the one hand, if you think of what we've been doing in Europe, we've been investing massively in renewable energy. On that side, we've been doing really well, actually. But we were doing it based on the projections of the of the EU Green Deal, which was that because of the electrification policies that we're pursuing now in Europe, we would have a gradually and steadily increasing electricity demand. What happened instead was, because of the energy crisis, we lost 7.5% of the total consumption across the entire EU in 2022 and 23. 24, we had a measly increase of 1%, so there wasn't really a proper rebound. And this is causing now massive problems on the supply side. We heard a lot earlier about curtailments and negative prices and all of this. So from where I'm sitting, we have this really common challenge now between supply and demand, where on the one hand, the demand side needs this competitive supply of electricity, and renewables can play a massive role in achieving this. And on the other side, the consumers the suppliers, the electricity sector itself, needs to have the industrial demand in order to really boost that level, reduce the curtailments and the problematic negative prices that we're achieving. So what we are calling for, what we would like to see doing, is let's really support industrial consumers, for the existing ones, to make sure that they're consuming, the plants that have shut down or have reduced their production can come back, and also to create the situation for more industries to electrify their own processes. And the way to do this is not by destroying the market design and making tweaks and this and that. It's really by having a strong industrial policy coming from Brussels, helping consumers through out-of-market measures, sign PPAs to really support that consumption level. And it will help, I think, the supply side as well to deal with a lot of the problems that we are seeing, as well as, to answer your question, making sure that an increasing amount of that electricity is renewable as well.
Thank you. And since you mentioned that, so you say we should, there should be support for PPAs to increase demand on the industrial side. So from that perspective, can we go and talk a little bit about the Clean Industrial Deal and the plan for financial guarantees for PPAs? Do you think this is a step in the right direction? Is this something that will go into and help with these challenges?
I think it's not the tool we're looking for. The reason that I say this is if you look at the countries in which guarantee schemes have already been implemented, so you can look at Norway, you can look at Spain, and you can look at France, each of them have led to sort of 1 or 2 PPAs being signed in each case. The reason for that they haven't been more successful is that they do not address the basic challenge that industrials need to overcome in order to sign these PPAs, which is what Mr. Dobrev mentioned earlier, which is the need to match our stable baseload consumption profile. If you think about an industrial consumer, when we're signing a PPA, you end up locking in a price for certain hours of the day, during which increasingly you can actually get even paid to consume during those hours, but you are not then hedged for the remaining hours of the day. So if electricity is 40% of your cost, as it is for an aluminium smelter, that's an impossible risk to take on. So you get many consumers that are not signing PPAs for this reason. And that's, for me, it's a disaster. There are many mechanisms, many ways that we can overcome this. You had a proposal from Greece a few years ago called the Green Pool that addressed precisely this. You have the Italians now, they're going for the Energy Release 2.0, which addresses precisely this point as well. And to finish off on the Clean Industrial Deal, this is, I think, the blind spot that we have in the energy and climate policies, because renewable electricity is the #1 enabler of decarbonization. But as a consumer, it's the one technology that I cannot receive currently any support to consume. So we have hundreds of billions of euros going to hydrogen and carbon capture and investments that very often don't even end up materializing because these are immature technologies still. And the one that we need to be prioritizing, we don't have any tools for this. So that, for me, from my perspective, is the #1 thing that we need to solve under the Clean Industrial Deal.
Thank you so much. And I think we are quite pressed for time. So I would just give an opportunity for the other 3 speakers to just say 1, maximum 2 sentences about what is the one thing you wish to see in terms of policy, be it the Clean Industrial Deal or any other national level policies that you think would be most effective.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, Daniel talked before about the postponement of CSRD, and I think on that line of that, I would like to see faster progress on CS-DDD. So making sure that companies are pushed to better understand their supply chain, because that's a lot of what the Greenhouse Gas Protocol itself it's built around, right? So the whole concept of Scope 3 is being able to create this, work together kind of logic, right? So, I mean, if your suppliers use Scope 3, you have an incentive to help them reduce as well. So yeah, to keep it short, I think CS-DDD is something that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully seeing it implemented.
And Mr. Katinov.
From my point of view, in the context of the Industrial Clean Deal, we can say 2 questions. One is that we hope that will appear the right mechanisms for financing and boosting the energy-intensive industry to the decarbonization targets of Europe, and the other thing is a more clear regulatory framework to facilitate this process.
And Mr. Dobrev, you have the honor of closing remarks.
Okay, I have one favorite word in my work every day. It's balance. We should balance everything. If we push one system from one side, the problems will go to the next side. So that's why the whole policies, the whole activities of the authorities should have a balance and coherence, and should take in mind everything, all the consequences that are coming after we invent something new into the system. So that's why balance. It is the core of the metallurgy, yeah? So let's be balanced.
Thank you for this beautiful way of closing the panel. So I will free now, I guess we can free the stage for the next panel. Thank you very much for joining me here, for your insightful comments. And yeah, looking forward to hearing the next panel.